What's going on? I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive into Ableton's Arpeggiator here, and if there's any noise behind me in the background, I'm sorry, because right when I started recording, they started trimming the trees outside my house, so hopefully that's not coming through too badly. Anyway, diving into it. What is an arpeggiator? What does an arpeggiator do? What an arpeggiator will do is it will take a stack of notes, all right? It'll take several notes like this. Like I just have a C minor triad going on here. Normally with the arpeggiator turned off, you play it and you hear all three of these notes at the same time, like that. But if you turn the arpeggiator on, what it's going to do is it's going to play each of these notes individually one at a time, like this. And the order in which it plays these notes is determined by the style. So currently we have this set to up, all right, which means it's going to play from C to, technically this should be an E flat, C, E flat G, C, E flat G. And it's going to repeat that over and over and over again. So we can go ahead and switch this to down. Now it's going to go G, E flat, C. Like that, all right? That is at the basics, at the most basic level what an arpeggiator does. All right, let's just explore each of the styles here, and I'll go through all of the controls and also some kind of fun little tricks I like to do with arpeggiator. So next we have up down. What up down will do is it'll play note 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right. Now that is different from up and down. Up and down will play 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. So it'll repeat the top and bottom notes like that. So that's the difference between up down and up and down. Down up is going to be the opposite of up down, like that, and the same way that down and up is going to be the opposite of up and down. Right? Next we have converge. This is probably easier with a larger chord. So let me go ahead and make a big stack here. Let's do that. C, do that. There we go. So this will be a lot easier to see what's happening with it. What converge is going to do is it's going to start at the lowest note, then it'll play the highest note, then it'll play the next lowest note, the next higher note, and the next low note, and the next high note. So it comes from the outward in. Diverge does the opposite, starts from the in and works its way outward. Like so. Then we have converge and diverge. So it'll converge and then it'll diverge out. So it'll come in and then it'll play out. All right. Next, we have pinky up. All right. So this is basically like, so it's thinking about left hand playing. So it's going to start with the pinky of the left hand on a piano, on a keyboard, I should say. Left hand playing on a piano keyboard. So the pinky is going to be a lower note, right? And put this in front of the, there we go. So low, high, low, high. It'll basically go like starting at the pinky and play the next note up. Pinky, next note, pinky, next note, pinky, next note. So what pinky up is, it's basically, it's going to do, it's just going to think about like the right hand. All right, next we have pinky up. And what pinky up will do is it's basically going to bounce back and forth between the pinky of the right hand, if you're thinking about playing a piano. So it's going to keep repeating the highest note, right? Because if you're thinking about how a piano is set up, the pinky is going to be the highest note on the piano keyboard if you keep alternating back and forth like this. So it's going to start low, pinky, next note, pinky, next note. So basically going to go like here, pinky, here, pinky, here, pinky, here, and up like that. Okay. Next we have pinky up down, which, as you can expect, right? That top note's being repeated and just playing up and down through all of these and then back down again like that. Next we have thumb up, which is the opposite, right? It'll repeat the bottom note. So here, then there, 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 and back all the way to the top, and then it's going to start over again. And then up down is just the same as pinky up down, where it plays up through this, then it'll come back down again. Like so. Next we have play order. So this is like if you were playing the chords in live, all right? And for this, I'm going to grab my MIDI controller here, and I'm just going to play in a chord. And whatever order I play these notes in, it's going to play it back in. Oops, I should probably turn this on. That would help. There we go. Right, so if I were to like kind of roll it up to the top, so starting at my thumb and rolling up to the top, right, the order that I played it in, if I go from the top note down, it's just going to play, and like whatever the first note hit is the first that's going to play, the second. So if I can just do like a random series of them, like, and it's pretty random and kind of cool like that. So that's play order for live playing in. Then we have chord trigger right here. And what chord trigger is basically, it'll actually play the chord. So if I were to, here we go, if I play this, it's just going to play the chord itself over and over again like that without actually arpeggiating it. So it's not even like technically an arpeggiation. It's an arpeggiation setting. But next we have random, and it's going to randomly play through all these notes, and it's going to be consistently random. Always playing a different note after that, completely random algorithm. Then we have random other, meaning that it will play a random note, but it won't repeat notes the way that last one kind of repeated a few of the notes. It's going to always play a different note than the one that just played. Yep. Then we have random once, which means it's going to pick a random pattern and keep looping that over and over again. I really like to use the random once arpeggiation pattern, and then what I'll do is I'll make a new MIDI track. So this is a cool little trick. I'll make a new MIDI track, and I can actually record the MIDI that's coming from this operator, from this arpeggiator. If I set this to channel 1 and I turn on record, and I just record the MIDI, you can see that I've actually recorded the arpeggiated notes right here, and then I can come in and edit them however I want if I want to. And if I don't really like this pattern or I want something to compare it to, I can make a new one. Right? So this is an awesome way to kind of get a little more control over a randomized process. So you use the randomizer to give you ideas, and then you record the MIDI, and then you can get in there and tweak it any which way you want. It's one of my favorite ways to use Ableton's Arpeggiator. So that's all the different styles of arpeggiation. All right, let's move on to the groove section here. Basically what this will do is it will add a little bit of like a swing to the pattern. So we're currently on a rate of eighth notes, and so I'll set this to swing 8. And if I add that, then it's going to get this really, really aggressive, hokey kind of swing going on. If you want to pull that back, then what you can do is actually come over to your groove pool, which is right here. You can't see it because it's behind the picture. I'm clicking the little 2 waves to open the groove pool up. And then we have a global amount. This is the global swing amount of your entire project. You can turn it down here, and that's going to decrease the amount of swing being applied, so you can have a more subtle swing. I find that I usually like it around like 10 to 30%, somewhere down the low end like that. Otherwise, it's just too aggressive, right? You can go all the way up to 130% too, if you want this like a really intense swing. Same deal for 16 and 32. Like if I had this at a rate of 16th notes, which is right there, 1/16, it's going to play twice as fast as 8th notes, right? And then the groove, the swing 8 gets a little weird because it's starting to be swung very, very hard at an 8th note. So you can actually set this to swing 16, and it might make a little more sense like that. But you can get some pretty cool patterns by doing some of the other swing patterns at different rates. I'm going to set this back to straight, which just means no swing. Oh, we also have hold right here. So basically, this means if you have hold turned on, then after the keys are released, the pattern is going to continue to be played. So let me turn on hold. See, even though the notes are stopped, then it's going to continue to do that pattern. Now, if I have another note, like let's just say we have another chord in here, like that. I'm just going to do something random. Basically, once the next chord comes in, when I have hold turned on, it should play the next chord. See that? So the next time you play, then it will go ahead and add those notes in, or rather use those notes to replace the ones that are currently playing. Moving down here to the sync button. So I have this currently set to 8th note rate, which means it's going to sync right here. It's going to sync with my project tempo and play 8th notes at my project's current tempo. If you adjust the tempo of your project, then it's going to adjust the overall playback rate based on what an 8th note is at this tempo. But if you turn sync off, then you can actually have the rate set to a millisecond, so it doesn't have anything to do with your project tempo. To demonstrate this better, I'm going to turn on the metronome here, and then I'm going to just adjust the rate. See, it doesn't really have anything to do with this metronome, but you can get some pretty cool, like interesting glitchy, like computer music, weird space effects by doing this. You can go like, it's very pretty. I think you can get some great stuff with this rate knob. And I also want to show you a cool trick later that I often use Arpeggiator for that involves free rate. Next, we have the gate. So the gate basically is just saying how long it's going to hold the note down for. All right, so the length of notes when you're working with MIDI is determined by the gate length. All right, the gate length is basically like how long you're holding the note down for. So when you press note on a MIDI keyboard, that is a gate on message, a gate positive message. And when you release it, that is a gate off. All right, so you're like basically think of it like a square wave, right? So I wish I could draw this actually. All right, cool. So basically what I'm trying to say here is when real quick, I just want to say, if you find this video interesting and informative, I have a ton more tutorials like this over on my Patreon right here, including monthly sample packs, track reviews, and private lessons. You can also go to abletonprivatelessons.com where you can book a session directly with me. Availability and booking, online sessions, and all the information is right here. If you see a slot available, just go ahead and book it. I am always accepting new students. All right, back to the tutorial. There we go. There is note on. Wait, what's happening? Boom. I don't know why it's like erasing it after. Whatever. You get the idea. There we go. Okay, cool. So here is the note on, all right? And here is the note off. And this is the length of the gate. Now, currently over here, the gate is set to 50%. So you got to think about this like in math terms a little bit. The rate is 8th notes, okay? So let's imagine that over here we have like this is 1/8 note, right? Why is it erasing after every time I draw something? Can I just not have it do that? And yeah, stupid. Let me just do this. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah? No, it's not gonna work. All right, well, I can't even demonstrate it with that Microsoft Paint because it's too stupid. I don't know why it wasn't working. But think about it like this. The entirety of the gate on message is with the is 1/8 note, all right? If the gate's at 50%, what's 50% of 1/8 note? It's a 16th note. So technically what's going to happen here is that this arpeggiator is going to play the note for the length of 1/16th note, and then it's going to release that note. That's why there's a little space in between each of the notes. If I slow the tempo down, you'll really be able to hear it. Hear that? Now that entire length of time is an eighth note, but the note's only playing for the first half of it. The rest of it is empty space. It's silence. That's because the gate is set to 50%. If I put the gate to 100% though, here are those no silence. It's holding down for the entirety of that eighth note right there. If I put the gate at 10%, we're going to get a very short little note. And if I put the gate at 200%, that means it's going to hold for a quarter note, twice the length of the eighth note. Which means you will get overlapping notes, because before the eighth note is, before that quarter note's up, another note's going to be triggered. So you're always going to get a couple notes that are overlapping, which can be very pretty. 50% is the default. So that's what gate is. Next we have offset. So basically what this will do is it will shift the sequence. All right, so let's just say we're going to count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I put this on offset of like 2, it's going to offset it by 2. So it's not going to start on 1 or 2. It's going to start on 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. And if I put this at 5, it should start on the 5th step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it should start here. I guess it's skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's starting on the 6th step. So that's how you calculate that. It's skipping the first 5 and starting on the 6th. So it's going to start on the highest note and then go here. All right, so offset just shifts the sequence that's playing currently. Down here we have retrigger. So this is pretty cool. With retrigger turned off, nothing's going to happen. It's going to keep arpeggiating over and over again. But if you have a note turned on, and you set the repeat, so this is where the repeats starts to come in. Repeats is the number of times it's going to repeat the pattern. Let's go ahead and put this to 1. So it should only play through this arpeggiated pattern one time. And then it stops, right? If I put this to 2, it's going to play through it twice. Until another note is pressed. So let's go ahead and just duplicate this over here. And now it's going to start playing it again like that. So that's pretty cool if you want to just play through once. Like perhaps you want to have a really interesting like arpeggiation like this every time you play a note. Let me do some kind of weird pattern like that. Right, so you can do some interesting work with it like that. Next we have beats. That means every single beat, depending on how you have this set right here, all right, it's going to repeat that pattern on that beat. So we have it set to half notes. Let's go ahead and make this faster, like 16th notes, and we'll have 2 repeats. Actually, no, we have to only have 1 repeat. Maybe set this even faster to make it more obvious, 24th notes. Let's have this set to 1. So this is a measure. Oh, I have this set to infinite. I need to put this to 1. There we go. There we go. So now every measure is going to repeat this little pattern. You can have this set to up to 16 repeats. So if I put this like as fast as it'll go. That can be kind of cool. So that's what the retrigger does. Next we have the transpose mode. So what the transpose mode does is it basically takes your notes and it will force them into a particular key. All right. When you have it on shift mode, that's just like semitones and it won't do this. But if you set this to like major, I mean, for example, what I have here is, I don't even know what this chord is. Minor 7th, 9th, 11th. I guess it's a minor 11th. So I have a C minor 11th, I think. That's probably not entirely right. But I'm not going to analyze it too closely right now. What I can do here is put this like into the key of a major G, all right? G major, I should say, I guess. So listen to the difference here. If I have it to the shift, it's not going to do anything. It'll keep it like where it was. And that's exactly where it was before. But let's put this on major, set this to G. Here I was playing back different notes. It's basically shifting these notes around so that I'm, no matter what, going to be playing in the key of G major, which can be really useful if you want to get in there and just put a few notes down, or you want to perhaps shift this around. Like, let's just go ahead and take a few of these. These ones will all go up a couple steps, more, and then like down a couple steps. So now it's all going to be in the key of G major no matter what. So if I were to come over here with an operator and put another chord progression of just a G major triad underneath it, and I just hold that, it should sound fine. Yeah, like all those notes sound fine with this underneath it. All right. Now, for example, if I had a G major chord and I switch this over into the key of like F major, that might not sound so good. Here, there's a little bit of discord right there, a little discordance or whatever happening with these notes. That's because these are playing the key of F major, but this is the key of G major down here. So let's go ahead and put this back to shift. Next we have steps. All right, so this is pretty cool. What happens here is basically what's gonna do is it will play through this pattern one time and then transpose it by this distance right here. So if you put this to like 1, it's gonna take one step up, and that step is gonna be 12 semitones. So you can hear how it's like going up an octave the second time that it plays, right? We can go up 3, and it's going to get kind of high, but let's go faster as well. Which can be pretty cool for those like really glittery, pretty arpeggiations. I don't know. We can also set the distance to like 1, right? Now, at certain points here, if we put the step to like, I don't know, 8 all the way up, here's the issue is that it's going to be transposing it up by 1 semitone, which means it's going to be leaving the key that we're currently in. Some of those notes are not in the key that we are currently in. So this is where you can actually use this. Let's do a minor C. Doing this, it'll shift it. It's going to keep it all in this key. Right? So if I were to actually record that, let's just do that again. This should all be in C minor. All right, and let's take a look. I'm going to go over here and turn on my scale and go to C minor, fold it down to scale, and there we go. We can see that every note that played was part of the C minor scale. So that's how those can kind of work together to create pretty cool patterns and pretty cool, like, interesting little bits that are all locked into a certain key. All right, so next over here we have the velocity. Velocity will essentially apply some velocity to your notes. It's easier if I just show you here. If I turn on velocity, I'm going to turn retrigger on. Basically, like, when the pattern gets retriggered, then the velocity will also start over again. So basically, like, here's your target velocity, and here is the decay time. All right, here's how long it takes for it to get to that target velocity. Now, I have the velocity up pretty high already. What's that, 100? So it's going to be easier to show you if my target is 0. So it's going to go from 100 down to 0 over this amount of time. Right? And now it's down to 0 velocity, which means it's not going to play. But if I combine this with something like the beat mode, like maybe every bar, it's gonna, it should repeat. Oh, retrigger needs to be turned on. I didn't turn on retrigger. Maybe turn the decay time up a little more. So it gives it a little more life and a little more movement. Now I think if I have the velocity turned all the way down for all of these, and I set this to a target of 127, it does the opposite, right? It'll grow from lower to higher. So basically it'll apply some velocity changes over time. All right, I mean, that's basically the overview of the entire arpeggiator in depth. I wanted to go over one last cool little trick that I like to use this arpeggiator for. And that is basically what I will do is I will take a sampler. I mean, you can do this with anything really, but I like to use a sampler. Put an arpeggiator in front of it. Now, I use these for fills all the time. I call them like exponentials. I don't really know what the other, if there's a term for them or whatever, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some little like percussive type thing. Here's a weird little sound. Yeah, there we go. So we'll use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn sync onto free mode, and then I'm going to add some automation, and I'm going to go from fast to slower over time. What we're going to get is this, which is an amazing little fill sound. Now, it sounds really basic right now, so usually I'll come over here and I will combine it with some like filter automation, right? If we just have the filter open up over time like that, maybe. I can combine it with some panning. Let's actually do a little spread on it, and then add some panning into it so that it will move back and forth over time like that. That's kind of cool. We can also maybe make this like a... Yeah, that's neat. I like that. And I'll just work with it like that and make it sound really, really, you know, good and work for whatever track I'm doing. But yeah, this is a pretty cool effect. If I were to go ahead and just actually stretch this back out again, I could make it go back to fast again. Like that. You can get some pretty interesting rhythms and, I don't know, almost like strange fills or something. Just play around with it a little bit. Right? And you can do all these different tonal shifts on it too. Like maybe I want to add a little bit of this oscillator here, the FM oscillator. Right? So actually, let's just go ahead and copy the rate and apply that to the oscillator volume. So that it's getting this sort of weird sound being applied. As it gets faster, it gets a little more FM'd. I guess as it gets slower, it gets more FM'd, I mean to say. But if I wanted to be the other way, I could just come over here, hold down Option, and you just flip it, right? So that's how you kind of invert some automation. And now it'll do the opposite. I can pull it all down like that. There we go. So now as it gets slower, it gets less FM'd and vice versa. One of my favorite things to do with Arpeggiator, honestly. Okay, hopefully you found this all very interesting and informative. And yeah, until next time. If you like this content and you want more tutorials like this, I have a Patreon over here. You can see I have monthly tutorial videos like this one you're watching right now, as well as monthly sample packs. I offer track review and private lessons right here. You can also go to abletonprivatelessons.com and you can book a session directly with me through that. And if you see on my online scheduler that there is a time available, just go ahead and book it. These are always open. I always keep this up to date no matter how long ago I made this video. I guarantee you that if you see a time slot available there, you can book it and we will have a session. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly. Otherwise, let's get right back to the video.